Hola, mi gente. This is Café con Cultura, and we are your hosts. I'm Rocio Cortez.
And I'm Magdalena Cortez.
Today's topic is going to be a little bit of kind of everywhere. We're going to talk about quite a few things. The main thing is a little bit of age difference between siblings, but we have quite a few other topics that we're going to talk about too. And, to kind of get us started, in our culture, it is known and it's very especially with the older generations, we see that a lot of families had many kids within it, right? And that sometimes causes quite a bit of an age difference. So sometimes we have siblings that are a lot younger than us and maybe a lot older than us. I mean, just for example, in our family, on our mom's side of the family, my grandma actually had six kids, right? So
Oh,
six women and then six men, six kids. But in our dad's side of the family, I've never really had a lot of people that can beat this number. But we actually, my grandma had 20 kids, 20 kids,
back
20,
to back.
back to back. What was
It
that?
was just like it's crazy, don't you think? Having 20 kids back to back. For me, in this economy, thinking about 20 kids, it's
Oh,
unmanageable.
no, no.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
imagine somebody having 20 kids in this economy. I mean, if you do, all all kudos to
Kudos
you to
for
be able to
you.
be there,
Yeah.
right? But I mean, it was 20 kids. They lived they did agriculture, so they like harvested beans and tomatoes and strawberries and things like that. But I mean, that's 20 kids, no twins, all individuals, back to back, one after the other. 20
Oh yeah.
kids,
Yeah, I
right?
don't know how my
So
grandma did it, but she did it. She
she
did
did
it.
it. Yeah, she did
Who's
it.
that
I mean,
girl?
she was right. Imagine. Oh my God. I was struggling trying to have two babies. I mean, I cannot imagine having that many. So, and I mean, that gave us so many aunts and uncles. So that means that our dad has brothers and sisters that are maybe double his age because he was one of the youngest, and then also the oldest of all those siblings have you know their younger siblings that were almost like their kids. I mean, they literally basically, I know that my dad always talked about some of his sisters basically raising him, things like that, because they were so much older. I mean, there had to have been like a 20-year gap right there, or maybe 15 to 20-year gap, imagine. So I mean, in the gap within us, I mean, we already knew that it was a common thing within our families to have quite a bit of a gap, and our parents ended up having a gap within us too. But my mom only had four. I don't know how she did it, even with four kids. I think that for me, I love my two.
That's
I'm
right.
done. I'm good. But we're done. We're completely done with having kids. I think my perfect two, God knew exactly how many kids I can handle. And I think that's what I can do. Me as a parent specifically, if you have more than that, kudos to you. Like I said.
No, for me, you know what? I feel like this generation has kind of died down on having a lot of kids, not only because of the economy, but it's just a lot of work. We don't, we
Yeah.
we actually grew up, I don't want to sound messed up, but like a lot of people even mention it too, like, oh, we raised our siblings, you know?
Right, right.
But there are other people, like other Hispanics. I don't know her name, but she's on TikTok, right? She it's said that she's only having kids back to back because that's how she gets her money. That's why she's TikTok famous.
Oh my
I'm like,
goodness.
even if it's for fame, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't even do that for my kids. Like, that's too much.
No, no, it's for me, the reason it's not about the amount, it's not about the economy. I know that you can at the end of the day make it work. For me is how much attention that I can give to my kids, right?
Oh,
And that's
yeah.
one of the big things because, in within our family, we were four. There's a huge age gap, right? Myself and my brother, we were only 2 years apart, so we were super close growing up. My brother was my everything. He was my first love, everything. Not to be weird, right? It's not in a weird way, but my brother was my everything, right? So after that, there's a 6 year gap between me and you, and then between you and Maria, our younger sibling, is 6 years again. So 12
Again.
years between me and her, right? 14 between her and our oldest brother. So it's quite a bit of a gap. So there's a little bit of a discrepancy right there when we talk about being close to your siblings, things like that. You see me more as a second mother than as a sister, and it's different. It's different, right? And it happens a lot in our community. And the whole point is that bless my mom for having four kids, all those different things, right? I think she did an amazing job. But for me personally, I mean, that's four different personalities that you have to nurture. And I myself have about five, six different personalities right there. So I myself am a lot for myself to handle, a lot for
Mhm.
my husband to handle, and then to have two more kids and then have to, make sure that we're offering everything that we can to them. I mean, do you feel the same or what do you feel like?
Well, I do agree on you on like it's not really because at the end of the day, yeah, you can make it work, right? Our
Yeah.
parents figured out how to make it work as well. Um, it's not about the economy or anything, but it's about like giving like the attention that you want for your kids so they won't feel left out, they won't feel like unloved or anything like that. But I do want more kids, but not in the same time, I'm like, I don't think it would be fair for my daughter because I want her to know that, she's not a second choice or like she's forgotten or anything. I don't want her to feel forgotten because that's how I used to feel, you know, being 6 years away from you, 6 years away from Maria, basically being an only, not only child. What am I talking about? I mean, middle child. Middle child is something. Well, you're a middle child as well, right?
I don't
Um,
feel like it. I don't feel
no?
like it. No, because I have my brother, which is a boy, and then 2 years later, it's a girl. So that's how I feel like with my kids too. Like, obviously, it's only two, so there is no middle child, but I don't feel like a middle child because my two siblings, my two sisters, are way younger than me. So I just feel like the older sibling. I feel like the older um sister, and then we have an older brother. I don't feel like I'm a middle child. I feel like because of the age difference, I never felt like a middle child because it was like my brother was the man of the house, right? He was like a second man because we really like our parents never really treated us like kids. They treated us, like we got rules, we got chores, we got,
Oh yeah.
like we didn't have
Yeah.
necessarily like the most, I played with dolls, things like that. And then at some point it was like, all right, not really.
I'm
And I
done.
know that I'm the one who stopped wanting that, but no, I didn't ever feel like a middle child. I had this conversation with my husband too, but I never felt like one. I just feel like it's because of the age difference.
I feel like maybe because you had my mom and my dad much more longer than I had my mom and my dad. You know, you always say that like after I came, they gave attention to me, but I never felt that way. Never felt that way. Maybe because, after that Maria came.
No, you were the one that were with my mom the most. I mean, it was
Yeah, but
always
I
like
never
vete
felt
pa tu
like I had
cuarto,
attention.
because you were just always there because it was just something natural. I mean, I felt like she did. May I don't know, you feel however you want to feel, but my mom would send me and my brother to our room, and we shared a room. We always it was go to your room and I'm going to my room. Who's in her room? Magdalena. You're
Oh,
in her
but
room.
wait,
You're in
wait.
her.
I had my own room, right? I had my own
You had
room.
your own room in my mom's room.
Oh my God, my mom is so funny. The other day I was telling her like how like when Rocio moved out, I had a room with my younger sister, Maria, and then after my dad passed away, Maria went back to my mom's room to sleep with her, and then I had my whole room by myself. Like a year later, my husband moves in because we're having a baby, right? So I was telling her,
That's
"Oh
all
my
you, girl.
gosh,
That's all you.
oh my gosh, I left like I and the same thing with him too because he finally had his own room as well because his brother moved out. So we both had our own room the same time and we both lost it at the same time. So we were like, damn, like we had our
You
room,
guys
we
didn't like
messed
having
it
your own
up.
room.
Like we were waiting for that moment, we messed it up and my mom's like, what are you talking about? You did have your own room. I was like, yeah, only for a little bit. She's like, no, remember when we used to live in the yellow house? And I got so excited. I was like, oh my God, is this like a lost memory or something? Like, what are you talking about? She's like, yeah, I even decorated it for you. And it just clicked in my head. I was like, Mom, are you talking about the closet? So like, yeah, I decorated it for you. So it was your own room. I was like, Mom, there's literally like clothes
That's not what we call
hanging
a
up
room.
on top. What are you talking about? You had your shoes, you had like stuff inside there. And you saying it's my own room? It's like, yeah, it was your own. I decorated it for you. She kept on saying, I decorated it for you. What are you talking about? That is not a room.
It so just for context, my mom had one of the biggest. We didn't stuff her in like some little closet, okay? So it's not like, I understand where my mom's coming from too, okay? Because we didn't stuff you in a tiny little like Harry Potter type of closet or anything like that. My mom had the biggest closet that I've ever seen in my life. I've gone to many, many different houses and I've never seen a closet that big. It literally was as long as her room was, and she had the main room, and it was very, very wide. It was very long. It was literally the whole length. And my mom gave her like half of the closet and made a room in there where she would sleep. And my mom called it a room, I guess. I never thought about it that way until you were telling me the other day when we were talking about this, but I don't know. I guess I mean, you had your own room, girl. I never had
Yeah,
my
it was
own
a
room.
sliding door too. It was a sliding door.
Yeah, I
Oh
never
my
had my own
God.
room because I had my room with my brother. Once my brother moved out, then I had my room with you, and then I moved out right with my husband, and then that was it. No rooms by myself. Kind of talking about having our own rooms and things like that. One of the things that I'm super super grateful about our upbringing was that we had the best of both worlds. We had a time in our life where we had everything, right? My dad was booming. He had so, he was working like crazy. So money wasn't an issue, right? We had the big house, and my dad even extended the house. And this is crazy to think. The reason why I'm thinking about this is that we never got our own room, but it's because they would condense it so that my dad can give it to other people, right? Because our cousins would stay with us, our uncles would stay with us. Like, our house was not ever just ours. A lot of our family lived with us too. It's not that we didn't have the rooms, is that my dad would, house all of his family. And I think that that's why he was very respected too in our family. Every single time someone would come over from Mexico and, wanted to live here in the US, my dad would give them a house before. That way they can, settle, find work, figure it out, get accustomed to the ways here. And then once they were ready, they would move out and we would bring someone else in. But we had our time where we had a lot, right? We had all the cars, we had the Hummer, we had big
Yeah.
parties, things like that. And then there was we but at some point in our life too, it was where we were living in basically our uncle's backyard, right? Especially after the recession of '08, my dad lost a house. There's just a lot going on too. And so we lived very, very comfortable. But then we also got to see how it is to live not so comfortable, right? Living in someone's backyard, not having enough for groceries, things like that. Like we live both worlds.
Oh yeah, and you know what? It's crazy that you brought this up because we were just talking about it with my husband's mom, my mother-in-law, right, the other day that we used to live in basically a little tiny room with a toilet, right? Um, but it was inside my tío's house, so they just blocked out the door, so we had our own, I
We had the
guess.
main room,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And we all
and it
fit
was
in there.
how many
Like,
were us? Four, six,
and
six of
Maria was
us.
just a baby. Yeah,
Maria was
yeah.
a baby, six of us. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, and we were saying how we just made it work. But my
yeah,
dad built a whole kitchen for us, for my mom,
right.
because we weren't gonna go inside my uncle's house and be
Yeah,
like,
we still wanted
"Oh,
them
it's
to have their privacy.
yeah, yeah, like we're gonna cook," you know. Like, no, my dad built a whole kitchen for us,
Yeah,
and we
yeah.
made it work.
Basically, it was the main room. They locked that door so that no one else would come in. It was just us, and then my dad in the back, like on the back patio. It wasn't that big, but whatever it was right there, that little, like concrete slab, he put some wood around there to cover it. That way, like if it rained too, it didn't get on there. And then we had the stove. But he didn't buy a stove. We had those gas stoves, the ones that
Yeah.
you use for like camping, things like that. And that's how we lived for a while. When my dad lost a lot after the recession in '08. I mean, what is a recession? A recession is when, um, you know, the jobs that bring in the money in the U.S. are starting to die down a little bit. One of those is construction. My dad had a construction business, so obviously the recession was going to hit him super hard, just like it did to a lot of other families, right? And we lost everything. We literally lost everything. We lost the house, we lost the cars, everything. And then my dad built it back up, and So we got to see and we got to experience the best because I remember that sometimes I talk to my husband about like the crazy parties that we had and we had horses and we had chickens and we had really, really
Yeah.
nice cars, right? My mom had a Hummer, a Range Rover, a BMW, like all of the nice cars that you can imagine, a Jeep, an SRT, right? It had like really, really nice things. And so my husband sometimes tells me like, oh, you don't understand how it is to not have nice things. And I was like, I do understand how it is. I understand how it was to have everything, but I also understand how it was to not have anything. So I
Yeah,
think
and I
that,
don't really tell people like what we used to have. I tell
right,
people like, you know, when we didn't have it. Because then they're when once you tell them like you used to have it, they still think that you still have it.
right.
So I
No,
just
no,
don't tell
no.
them that part, you know?
Right? No. Well, no, I don't talk about it necessarily. The reason why this came up was um my husband was saying, how do you burn a Hummer?
Oh, it's a joke. It's a joke because my brother,
I
he
don't think
he
he's gonna want us to say this.
okay. Well, it's a joke. I hope my brother, well, he knows it's a joke, Hope I think he still jokes about it until
Yeah.
now. But
Yeah.
yeah.
But I don't know. I think I really like the fact that we had that kind of experience, and I feel like it really molded me to the fact to where when I do have materialistic things, I take care of it, right?
Oh yeah.
Because it's so easy to lose all of that. I mean, you're at the top of the world one day, and it can go away so quickly, so quickly.
Yeah.
And it's also why learning about financial literacy has been such an important thing for us in our family too. I mean, imagine if we had all of the concepts that we know, me and you, because of what we do, because of our job. If my dad would have applied every single one of those concepts during the recession, we would have not lost anything. My dad would have made so much more and still came on top, right? So that's why it's so important for me, for our family to learn that, when we're on top, let's make sure that we are investing, make sure that we're doing the right things to make sure that our money grows so that when things like that happen, when the recession hits, because it always does 8 to 10 years, right? It's not something new, it always happens. It's just the way that our economy works. We're not surprised by it, right? We're not taken down by it like that. And this went completely in a different, direction than what we thought it was going to be. But I don't know. I'm actually really happy that we talked about that a little bit because it's one of those things that I feel like a lot of people say, well, you were one of those Mexicans, right? Like one of those that grew up that way. But we had a little bit of everything. We had a little bit of mixed things, right? But
Yeah.
another thing that I want to talk about too, because I said, we're one of those Mexicans, is that we're actually not full breeds. We're actually not fully Mexican. And we
Yes.
didn't know this growing up.
Yeah.
Right?
I didn't know this growing up. I overheard you and my mom talking one day, talking about Guatemalan, and I was like, what's
What is
Guatemalan?
that?
Yeah, because I grew up thinking that Mexican was the only Hispanic there was. I didn't know there was other Hispanic. I don't know. I
Right?
just thought it was only Mexican and that's it.
It was just
And
another way to say you're Mexican.
yeah, and I found out that also right when I found out that we were like half Mexican, half Guatemalan, I found out that a lot of people get offended if you call them Mexican and they're not Mexican.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
But it's the same way that if you call, a Mexican, Guatemalan, or Salvadorian or something like that, they'll be super offended too. But no, I actually found that in a different way. Well, one of the things is that my mom never talked about her childhood. She never talked about herself. She never talked about anything. I mean, I am, I'm in my late 20s and I'm still finding out more things about my mom and how she, grew up in these different things. And it was just something that my mom just never really told us about. And in that, she never really told us where she was from. Well, the way that I found out that I was half Guatemalan was that I was writing a paper for school, and I remember this because
Mm.
I had to write a paper on the person that I looked up to the most. So I chose my mom. So I sat down with my mom and I told her, I'm writing this paper. I have to write it for this and I have to ask you all these questions. And it was about my first or second question, I think, that I asked her. And I said, what part of Mexico are you from? And she said, Mexico. Yo no soy de Mexico. And I'm like, yes, you are. And she's like, no, I'm not. I'm like, you are because I'm Mexican. So that means that you're Mexican because you're my mom, so that's why I'm Mexican. And she's like, I'm not from Mexico, I'm from Guatemala. And that hit me, and everything started rushing because one of the funniest things ever is that when we would go to my grandma's house, my mom's mom, she always had all this decoration from Guatemala, like all of these watermelon decorations and things like that. And I'm like, my grandma's like super obsessed over Guatemala. Like, why does she have those things? You know? But then
Oh,
comes to find out that we're half Guatemalan. And I mean, if you ask my brother, he's not. He is fully Mexican. He does not have an inch of Guatemalan in him. You know, what? But we are technically half Mexican and half Guatemalan. Don't hate me.
oh no. I I feel so closed off, honestly. I'm not, how can I say this? I watch people, right? That kind of sounds weird, but I am just an observer, right? So when, I found out that was another type of Hispanic, it's not only Mexican. I found out also that Plaza Mexico, I don't know if a lot of people know where that is. It's like around Compton, I think.
Inglewood, I
Um,
think.
Inglewood. Yeah, there you go. Plaza Mexico, I thought that was Mexico. I
Oh
thought that
my,
was Mexico for the longest. And whenever you told me that I never went to Mexico, I was like, I literally went to Mexico with
what do
you.
you
What are you
mean? We went like
talking
every weekend.
about? Yeah. I thought it was like another thing so you can get me mad, like when you used to tell me like, oh,
No,
my mom found you
we
in
did.
the trash can or
We found you
something.
in a trash can. We did. We did.
No, you
That's
said
how
you
we found
found
you.
me beside the trash can, and Marco
Oh
said
yeah,
that they
yeah.
found you in the trash can.
No, 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 no. We found you. We found you by the trash can. That's how we
Oh
got you.
my
That's how we
God.
got
And then
another sister.
Marcos was given to my mom by this random lady, and then Maria was the only one that's hers.
That actually birthed from my mom.
Yeah.
This is how we get along by the siblings. Yeah. We were all fun
Yeah.
in the trash can except for the most appreciated one, which is Maria. Maria was actually from my
Oh
mom.
yeah. No, but you actually broke my leg one time for it. Remember my toe?
I broke your toe. I didn't break your leg.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
I was
broke my
messing with you and then you
toe.
started crying and then I was like, all right, get out of
Because
the
I was
room.
doing my homework. I wasn't even around you. You came up to me. You're adopted. My mom found you next to the trash can. I was like, leave me alone. And you wouldn't leave me alone. And then I
Yeah, you
started crying.
started
I started hitting
crying.
you. I started hitting you and you dragged me out. And I was knocking and knocking and knocking. Even the neighbor, our landlord, came out and then she went back to her house. I was like, are you not gonna you're not gonna like
And
knock
she's
on the
good.
door for
She's
me?
good. Yeah, and then she tried to sneak in, so I closed the door. And when I closed the door, her toe was there. And she was like, my toe, my toe. I'm like, no, I'm not falling for that. Get out of here. I broke your toe. It's okay. That's just how we get along. That's just how you
Yeah,
build
it's
some
just all
skin. All
game.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just
it's cool.
yeah.
Don't worry
My
about it.
mom still went to do her what she gotta do after that too.
Yeah, what are you supposed to do? You know? But one of the best things about being a half breed, because that's what I've been called before, about being Mexican and Guatemalan is that the food. I think that's why I fell in love with food so much. That's why I literally made a career out of it. I was a chef. I loved it because Mexican food is beautiful. And I mean, if you get even deeper into it, I mean, if you talk about food from different regions within Mexico, man, that's beautiful. Like Oaxacans have beautiful, beautiful moles, a lot of other things too, and you don't get the same in Michoacan or Zacatecas or Jalisco or wherever, like wherever you eat, they have their own touch in it. And it's so beautiful. And then outside of Mexico too, I mean, Guatemala has a beautiful cuisine too. And our grandma, they didn't cook a lot when they were actually in Guatemala, from what I found out, just from like the little stories. And again, we've said this so many times already before in a podcast. I hope one day that my mom wants to come on here and talk to us a little bit about that stuff because her upbringing was it was something else. And I hope that she'll talk about it at some point. But they didn't really cook a lot in Guatemala because they didn't have money to cook. So then it wasn't until they moved out here and my grandma moved to the US first, and then little by little she started sending money over there to bring her kids one at a time, except for my mom had to come with her brother, her younger brother, because she raised them and they couldn't be separated as apparently. But my grandma actually learned how to cook really really good here, I forget and I don't want to mess it up, but she was working for a lady who taught her how to cook a lot. And anyone who knows my grandma, everybody on my dad's side says it. Everybody who knows my grandma says it. My grandma makes the best food, right? She makes the best Guatemalan
Mhm.
tamales, and I've tried them everywhere. So don't try
Oh,
to tell me
no.
that your mama or your grandma or I don't know who, your nana makes better tamales. She does not.
Mm-mm.
I guarantee you she does not. Even when we go to restaurants, no one makes tamales as good as my grandma. No one can come near my grandma. I do not like Guatemalan tamales if it's made by anybody else. It's just my
Yeah.
grandma's. Those are the only ones. Even the chuchitos too, the smaller tamales. Like our family agrees. My dad's family and they're Mexican. They love Mexican food, obviously, right? They make amazing Mexican food. They know that my grandma's food is 100%. That
Oh,
her pupusas are to die for. I love her
yeah.
pupusas.
I love her pupusas. I don't like any other pupusas because they just have that weird taste. I don't know. I'm not trying to be, you know, what's it called? Like only choose my grandma's food, you know? But
It's
it
just
is
that
true. My grandma
once you try it,
is
it's
good.
hard to go anywhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah. But my
Yeah.
grandma's pupusas, the reason why they're so good is that when you eat pupusas, they're good, but they have so much fat in it because of the pork that they use. They use chicharron, and obviously that has a lot of fat in there, and they make it differently to where they end up having a lot of grease. So you eat them, and then you feel really, really stuffed afterwards. My grandma, the way that she makes her chicharron, and she has like I've she's taught me how to make it. I haven't made it myself, but she's taught me how to make it, but she takes extra steps in order to make sure that it's not going to be like that. So when you eat my grandma's pupusas, you can eat five, six, seven of them, right?
Oh yeah.
I'm not saying that I do, but I'm just saying that you
I
can
do.
eat them. I know, right? You can eat them, and you're not going to feel like that stuffiness of all the grease and things like that. It's oh my god, they're so good. Everybody knows that. Everybody always buys food for my grandma. They don't care that my grandma has to put her prices up because groceries are going really, really high now, right? So they'll still buy dozens and dozens of tamales and chuchitos and pupusas. My grandma cooks amazing.
Yeah. The holidays are coming up, so if you want your tamale, chuchitos, or
No, no,
pupusas.
don't say that. Don't say that because she already has to make hundreds and hundreds of them with already the people that she gets. But yeah, my grandma makes pots and pots of food whenever she does. She, man, and not a lot
It's
of people know how to make it either. My mom has learned, because I kept telling my mom like, hey, like so no one knows how to make anything. She's like, well, maybe your tia knows how to make this part, but not this, and then maybe this one knows how to make that. So I told my mom like, you need to get in there, you need to learn how she does
yeah.
it, like because when she tells you how she makes something, she won't give you everything, right? She won't like walk through it and like pretend that she's making it, and then she'll taste your food afterwards and say, did you do this? Did you put this? And it's like, well, you didn't tell me to do that or put that. So no, I did not. I did it exactly how you told me. She's like, yeah, no, you have to do that because of this, and that. And I'm like, lady. So my mom went in there and
No.
she's learning how to make everything.
Yeah, I actually a couple months ago I even told my grandma like I want to know like how you do everything. I want to know how you do the tamales and the chichitos and the what's it called?
Pupusas
Pupusas. And she showed me how to do pupusas. The pupusas are really easy. She buys everything in the supermarket. And I know how to do pupusas. It's just that like the flour, you know how you do it.
Her
Like
hands are beautiful. She
yeah,
has some beautiful hands.
she she even tastes the masa and everything. And I don't know when it's time, when it's time, when it's
Yeah, well, that's why I
I don't
ask
know that.
100 questions. She laughs at me because I'll literally ask 100 questions when she's doing the things, and I mean, like I know what to ask just because I've cooked for quite a while. I'm like, no, 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 I saw what you did there. Like why did you do that? And I'll ask her certain questions, and when she tries the masa too, I'm like, what are you looking for? Like, what are you tasting? This is what I taste. What do you taste? Kind of compare. Like you have to take it out of her because I mean, it's so just by memory that she doesn't think about things anymore. She just,
Yeah.
she'll try it. She doesn't know what it is, but if you ask her and kind of like lead her to it, she'll explain it to you. But she doesn't, you have to work. And that's what a lot of people always talk about our generation too, that we don't know how to cook because they don't know how to tell us. Sit there and ask the questions. right? Like you try to make it yourself and taste everything, even if it's raw, it doesn't matter, like except for raw chicken. Obviously, please don't like, get food poisoning, right? But like the raw masa, things like that, you got to try it and see what it's like so that you can find out why it is that she put more salt, why it is that she put more water, why is the water warm and not too warm, why did she do it like this, and everything.
Yeah, I asked her like, how does she know when the masa is ready? She's like, she takes one and she's like, look, you see? And she just went like, you see
Yeah.
how it is? I was like,
Yeah, you have to smear
no,
it
I
and see how
don't.
it, yeah, it doesn't stick on you, but it's not also like just clumped. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
beautiful, man. It's so beautiful. Like just Hispanic cuisine. I don't care if you're from Mexico, from Guatemala, from Salvador, from Venezuela. Man, food is amazing, right?
yeah.
So today we talked about a lot of different things, right? We talked about the age difference within our community. I mean, I want to know if you guys have experienced that, or are you guys all, really really close in age? What was that like? Because I do have some friends that their parents had six, seven, eight kids, and it was back to back, right? So they're all pretty close in age at some point. But for us, we were pretty far in age from our parents. Like I said, my grandma had 20 kids, so obviously there was going to be quite a bit of an age difference at some point, right? But we talked about that, and then we also talked about, not just being Mexican, we're actually Mexican and Guatemalan. So we're actually pretty proud of both parts of ours because our culture is just so beautiful. But I want to know more about you guys, about our listeners, so that we can get to know you guys a little bit more.
And like we said in other videos as well, if you want to email us, our email is cafecuncultura2024@gmail.com. Email us about your stories if you want us to share, or you just want to tell us personally. We would love to hear other people's stories and share it on the podcast if you let us, of course. And please, well, subscribe, like, and share. Hopefully, we can reach more of the Hispanic community, and that's just our goal. We just want to connect more to the Hispanic community. And thank you for watching. Yeah, yeah. Love you, mi gente. Bye.